to oneself, I feel really unhappy about the situation that I'm in my life, whatever it is, and that might be a job. I feel really unhappy about this job. I feel really sad when I'm driving to work in the mornings. I'm almost in tears when I'm going into this workplace because I'm just not happy there. And being able to recognize from that and say, my feelings are telling me I don't want to be here. What that now means is I need to find a new job, and to take the steps to find a new job. And it's where a counsellor can help, where someone like myself and other counsellors can help, is when that person comes along and says, I don't like my job, it's a horrible place to work, it's a terrible workplace, this is what I feel when I'm going in the mornings when this is brought out, is to be able to say to that person, your feelings are telling you, it's time to leave. So now come on, let me help you do that leaving and move forward.
And in all of those cases when they say this is a terrible workplace, what they're also saying is that, and I feel powerless to change it. I've tried and it hasn't worked. Therefore I have to do something about it. The problem comes in the hiatus between making that decision and getting another job. And what we see over and over again is people say, I need to change my job, but I need to find a job that pays the same because my standard of living is paramount. Well, then something has to give. And then they'll try and get the same job because that's what pays and that's what employers want to do. They recruit someone not who could be different or better, but who'll just fit a slot like a machine in a machine. And that makes change, especially in the workplace, very difficult. What people have to say is that I'm not satisfied. It's causing me problems in my private life and in other parts of my life by being in this physical location and this workplace. What's most important is that I change. And if that means we have to make changes to our standard of living, that's okay. We might not get back there. We might have to move to another place that's less expensive. We might have to change all of the things we do. But that's okay, because if we can find some happiness and more satisfaction, that's more important to teach your children than a standard of living.
Well, all three of us have changed careers dramatically. For people for 2024 who are thinking that frustration is there, it's worth doing it, as you said, just to get to the other side. And where you're just like, oh, it can feel like this. There's some people who have jobs that they want to either contribute or help. Is every job supposed to be a contribution or helping, or will some people's ideal job be a corporate job?
People will almost always say, I want to help. I want to do something that helps. It's a very, very common statement. And it's a lovely statement because it shows us the real essence of human beings, that there is a desire that is pre-programmed there to help each other. But it doesn't necessarily translate into the fact that the paid job, the employment you do every day, is going to be in a kind of sense that's dealing with helping other people directly. It might be helping a chain back or two chains back. So it's helping people to understand that as well, that it's an indirect change, perhaps, and it's identifying what is the real source within their heart as to what it is they really want to do.
Some people are meant just to have mundane tasks, and that's what they're set out and they're capable of doing. But let's think of a couple of examples. If someone was meant to be a butcher, what they're bringing to the world is not their ability to slice up a beef or anything else that they might slice up as a butcher. It's the interaction with people as they're serving them, as they're helping them, as they're teaching them about what's best for them, as they're understanding them, but mostly as they greet them. Mostly as they have that 30-second, 1-minute exchange where someone leaves the butcher shop feeling good about themselves. Someone's meant to be a baker. There's no question that there's an art and a skill in baking bread, but if someone doesn't like baking bread, almost any baker will tell you it will taste different because they're not putting any of themselves, any of their love, any of their spirit into it, but they're using the same ingredients. but they're not present. They're just throwing them in because they're the numbers that I'm used to throwing in. The gift of the baker is to give someone a beautiful feeling when they taste their bread, because they get the energy and it's transferred. That's making a difference.
And it's the energy here that is so important. We keep coming back always when we're talking, we keep coming back to energy, energy, energy. What is it? It's that part of you that you want to impart into someone else. And it's helping a person to see that being a baker might be really what they want to be, not working for a charity. Yeah? And to teach them just what Ian has said, that the energy that they use in that job, which is removed from the public, is actually the giving that they really want to do.
Because the amount of people that come as from mediumship reading and they want to know what their purpose is, but they automatically make that then about their job.
Correct.
So can you talk to that?
Is, which is what we're saying about the butcher and the baker, and what Pearl's talking about. It's the exchange of energy. We'll come to that, but if someone has a backroom job in a corporation and they're dealing with nothing but the computer and the people around them, that will only give them some satisfaction if their interactions with the people around them are good, and their team leader allows them all of the scope that they can to have those interactions. If not, well then there's a problem, and they'll end up changing, but they'll go and do the same elsewhere. What's their purpose there? Not everyone has a great purpose. Not everyone is meant to scream from the mountain and preach to 10,000 people. The purpose of most people is within small groups. And it's the difference we make. And purpose so often can be within the confines of this seemingly mundane existence. I'm still giving of myself. I'm still feeling good. Whatever I've got, I want to share. I want to be a better person. I want to make everyone I come into contact with feel better. Unless they attack me, then I'll protect myself. That's a purpose. Early in my work life, I was in a job that I loved. I literally loved it. It was exciting. It was probably the best job I've ever had. I felt compelled to leave it for a need to so-called help society in another area. 2 days into that new job, I knew I'd made a mistake, or believed I'd made a mistake, and I stayed in that new workplace for 10 years in doing different functions, but for 10 years, and I often tried to get out, but just couldn't find a way out. And I just could not understand why I was being caught in this, what felt like a trap. After 10 years, that took me to somewhere else because of that background, which allowed me to meet Pearl. So then that allowed us over time to get to our purpose. So people say, I want to do what my purpose is. They're thinking they need to be able to, or they're able to get there straight away. And sometimes you take what appears to be a sideways step, but it really isn't. It's part of a grander plan. And now when I look back upon those 10 years, many years later, I'm actually able to see what I learned. And what I learned was quite huge. And I also saw the dark side, and I saw where my dark side was, and it gave me an opportunity to say, that's not okay. So I found my better side by saying those forms of behaviour are not okay. And the way to deal with people was one of my greatest learnings. So purpose comes through time. We just have to get on the pathway.
And I recall an example there of many, many years ago in one of our spiritual groups. A lady came along and she was new to us. She'd only been in attendance probably 4 or 5 times, and she asked the question this particular night that she was changing jobs. She wanted to change job. And she said, I have a choice of 3 jobs. She'd been interviewed for 3 different positions. Which one should I take? And we were advised by Spirit to tell her, this is the job that's best for you. So she took the job, and a matter of weeks, a very short period of time, 3 or 4 weeks later, she came along, immensely angry, terribly upset. I've been terminated from the job. You told me this was the right job to take. You've given me terrible advice. How can I listen to anything else from you? And at that point in time, Christian from Spirit said to her, it was perfectly correct that you took that job as the right job for you, because you've bullied every person in every workplace you've been until this one, somebody turned the cards on you. And what you need to look at is the lesson now that you've learned. You know, this was beautiful. This is a beautiful learning lesson. Unfortunately, that lady left and never came back to us in a rage, which probably meant she never reflected on what it was she was put there to actually learn, so she could go to the next job having made change.
Still with no free spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Still caged.
Yes.
You know, a person ought to be doing a job where they can meet their karma as well. You know, for instance, myself, my karma is intolerance, being intolerant. And I think I've mostly overcome that, but it showed in so many ways, Carla, because if I'm dealing with a client who wants to leave their job and they're constantly saying to me, I can't, I'm so fearful, I can't do that. What about this? What about that? What about the other? And I'm sitting there as a person who has easily changed careers and easily said, okay, I'm done with that, now I'm going to do this. As I'm helping that people deal with their fear, I'm not understanding their fear because I didn't have that. I was able to change career, to get excited about that, to see that as an adventure. But I'm sitting there with each consultation I'm having, needing to understand how slowly that person needs to go, how much I need to help them, how much I need to support them. And often I'm really feeling, this is easy, this is not hard, just do it. You know? So my karma has been always very much tested through my work. Yeah.
And that whole idea of free spirit and the energy and connecting with people and sharing that, is that why work culture is so important?
Work culture's a very big topic. Most work cultures are beneath what a person needs. Most people, not all, have to drop their values and drop who they are to fit into a workplace. Workplaces have these wonderful words, big organisations, which they just don't use, they just don't do. They're just pretty forms of words.
Mission statements.
Thank you, mission statements, that's right.
Erotic mission statements.
The practical application is human behaviour at best at mediocrity. Large organisations generally rely upon mediocrity. So those who are not mediocre to survive have to drop. Those who are below mediocre have to do all sorts of things to hide who they are, and those behaviours aren't good. So the mediocre are okay, but they don't get an opportunity to grow. There's very little learning, it's mostly survival, and it's a minefield about workplaces, and it's very sad. What people are, this is what we were talking about before. Someone goes in there and the culture doesn't fit, it's because they've tried to change it, they can't. They can't be anywhere near enough of themselves. Workplaces tell you, don't be yourself. You have these expected behaviours. Nonsense. Be yourself and treat each other properly. There should be so few things needed to be written in a workplace about what you can and can't do. But like society generally, it's all prescribed rules, and that doesn't allow for freedom and growth.
And I've been in those workplaces, and Ian has certainly been in those workplaces too, Carla, where in government workplaces, where of course I look back and I should never have been in the first place because there was no match whatsoever to what my character is. For me to have been in a workplace, which I was, where no one spoke the truth, everybody played politics, everybody had an agenda, you really couldn't trust anyone, and here's me, what I'm wanting to do is the job that I was employed to do, and to do it the right way, and to remove the obstacles that stood in my way to doing that. So mine was a task of purity, Let me do what you asked me to do and what you're paying me to do. But no one else had that agenda except me. So there was a naivety and there was a complete and utter mismatch. But what was the purpose of my being there? Oh my gosh, I learned so much about human beings, so much about human beings, so much about politics, which I loathe, and the dishonesty of politics, and the motives of politics. And that stood me in very, very good stead for the rest of my life. And we're seeing it here in Victoria, we're seeing it, those kind of things playing out every day now. If we look at the media, and we have a few court cases going on at the moment in other places, that's astounding to watch the shenanigans that go on in government.
And I know that both of you work with individuals, but you've also used your spiritual principles and knowledge to work with organisations.
Well, we've done quite a bit of work with organisations as well. Everything where Pearl was talking about, it all starts and ends there. No matter what it looks like that we're trying to help people with, the essence is honesty. And that's a foreign issue in organisations. It's like it's, a cousin coming from the other side of the world who's a little bit weird. Someone comes in who is honest. It doesn't fit. And I've been in organisations where we've empowered through what we do spiritually the lowest levels to be honest to their supervisor. It's pandemonium, because that's not how the structure works. I'm the supervisor, I tell. And it's very sad.
So is it possible? Is there change?
It's only possible if someone at the top says, we need to empower the people, and we need to give them all sorts of good things and nurture them so they can be who they are, just like the French Renaissance. And let's see the power of people grow and come out of that. And let's see what can happen. But no, there's too much micromanagement.
I don't know an organisation that does that. I'm sure there is a small one somewhere in the world. I'm quite sure there is. There must be. I couldn't believe that the world's so bad that there's not, but I'm sure there is. But I can't think of...
You guys have said how organisations are nearly the new system because we don't have anything. So then with your work that you've done, if you were also doing keynote speeches and people think that they're leaders, but there's no real leadership out there, is that one of the places for the spiritual philosophy to actually make an impact?
It could.
Eventually.
It would challenge everything and everyone, because these so-called leaders will be driven on technical and on process. They're not driven on love and people. Can you imagine working in a place where you feel loved? Can you imagine that? And can you imagine what you're going to do and how you're going to leave each night because you're loved? They exist, but they're not in big organisations, and they're not people making keynotes because I'm a CEO, and the CEO is driven by one dash thing. What am I incentivised to do? How do I make the most money? And that's what I'll do. And they're successful if they've made the most money, irrespective or regardless of what happens to all of the people beneath them. They have little to no interest in that, so long as it's facilitating them. It's all a reverse. Leaders are meant to not have the people facilitate them, but to facilitate the people to be great or greater than they have been. This doesn't happen. And it won't happen under any current structure. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're leading to. Just as simple as that. What if we treated people differently? They felt appreciated, they felt loved, and they went home feeling good, and they went home to their family full of the joys of spring. What a different world.
You know, we have got small family businesses that work well. Where you've got, I do know of a couple where you've got flexible working hours, and the employees are mostly mothers, and so they've got flexibility to drop their children off to school, they've got flexibility to collect their children from school and work in with the owner of the business, and it works well, and they feel nurtured, they feel supported, and they feel as though someone's caring about them, of what their life is and what the discomfort is in their lives, of what they have to do every day.
With your power, if there was an employee who wanted to be honest or is honest to a higher position.
Make them a leader.
Yeah, that's...
Anoint them as the chosen one.
So leadership doesn't need to be at the top.
No, absolutely not. That's the model. That's what we want. Can more of you be like that person? That doesn't mean they have to be promoted. They might not be capable of that. And most honest people, they'll be so strange in an organisation that they won't last. So they're a starting point, and that's what we need more of. But as soon as they've gone under the structure of work today, everyone reverts back to the chameleon. And how do we survive? The times of honesty have gone. That person who empowered it, or the honest person, they've gone. Let's go back to how we were. Whilst they were there, they would have enjoyed the power and the freedom and the ability to be honest, but never really, not just the honest person, all of the others have this doubt. They have this fear that they're going to be punished for being honest because it's anathema. And it has to change. Honesty in an organisation could change every organisation in the world, but people would then have to confront their own reality, their own realness and their own truth.
I recall when I was a child, probably 8 or 9 years of age, I recall an elderly member of my family saying to me, "Whatever's in your head just comes out of your mouth." And I recall at that age thinking, isn't that what everybody does? Isn't that how it is? It's normal. It was when I went into the workplace that I learned that certainly wasn't normal. It certainly wasn't. I was a kind of an enigma in life on that one. But this is what we teach people to do. The beginning of power, the understanding of power, starts in the family, as I said earlier on, Carla, in the environment of a family. That's the most difficult place for people to test their values. When you've got siblings, and you've got siblings in different positions in the family, firstborn, secondborn, thirdborn, middleborn, the factors that impact upon each one of those in those positions are actually real. The number that you're born into a family actually brings with it an energetic realness to deal with. You've got parents who favour one child over another. There's a natural born to one child over another. This is where the real honesty starts, in the family home, in the building of the environment. That's where the real tests are, within families.